Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our second installment of the EBI Seminar Series on the STEM Graduate Chronicles. Today, I'm joined by Kelly Tucker, who is a second-year PhD student at UC Berkeley, studying the effects of different silicate rock amendments on greenhouse gas emissions. Hi, Kelly. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm great. Happy to be here.
Yay. Okay. Can you give us a little bit more details about yourself and your work?
Yes, my name's Kelly Tucker. As you said, I'm a second year graduate student in ESPM, which is Environmental Science Policy and Management. I did my undergraduate degree at UC Davis, studying plant sciences with an emphasis on crop breeding and crop production.
Okay, perfect. And so today we're going to talk about the application process and the application cycle when it comes to grad schools. So to just jump right in, how many grad schools did you apply to when you were going through the process?
I only applied to three. I did UC Berkeley, UC Santa Barbara, and UC Santa Cruz because I live in California. I really love it here, and I don't want to go anywhere else. And the UCs have a great program all the way around.
Would you say that that's pretty typical, like only applying to three, or have the people that you met applied to a lot more?
Mm, I think people usually apply to a lot more, honestly, but it's expensive, it's like $100, $120-ish per application. So I did keep it pretty small. I wanted to keep the stress low. Um, and I just kind of gave it my best shot and crossed my fingers a little bit.
Yeah, that leads me to my next question. Like, how nervous were you when applying?
When I was applying, I wasn't too nervous. I worked really hard on the essays. I had people proofread my essays. I think the biggest tip I can give is having people in the field that you want to work in or study in read your essays because they'll know the culture and the lingo better. So for example, I was applying for biogeochemistry programs, and I asked biogeochemistry people to read my essays, both my personal statement and my research interest statement, instead of like plant science folks or microbial folks, just because they were able to help word it better. Um, in my view, that's just my personal expertise. And applying wasn't too bad. It was the waiting afterwards where I got really, really nervous. I was a bit of a hot mess for a little bit there when I was waiting to get the answers back. But during, I think you just like work on your essays a little bit, like an hour a week or so in the months leading up to the application deadline, and just take it easy, really slow and steady.
So you mentioned like your statement of purpose or like some kind of like essay form. What were like all the application materials that you had to like actually dedicate time to like getting together?
Yes, they had a few like supplementary sections where you submit your previous work. And luckily, I already had a somewhat finished version of work from when I've completed internships at Cornell University. I had a finished presentation from that. I had a finished presentation from an American Geochemists Union poster that I presented. So like, and other projects, I kind of wrapped up a short abstract conclusion discussion on. I think I submitted three prior works that I've done, and then my personal statement and my research statement.
Okay, gotcha. Did you at all have to do the GRE?
I didn't know, and actually, I um I didn't apply anywhere that wanted me to take the GRE because the UCs didn't require it because of COVID. And anywhere that did, I was like, I'll try it next year if I have to, but I got really lucky. I didn't have to take it. I don't think they're required anymore, honestly.
You so nowadays they still don't require it? Is that what you're saying? Or
It's becoming a lot more optional now, kind of like
okay.
how SAT and ACT scores are for schools. They're looking a little bit more holistically. They're looking above that, which I appreciate. I'm a good test taker, so I'm sure I would have scored well on it, but it was nice to not have to pay for another set of prep classes and that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you talked a little bit about like how nervous you were when it came to waiting for the applications. How long did you have to take? And did they all come out around the same time?
I waited about six, I'd say 4 months. When I got an email from the professor, the lab I'm at now at Berkeley, Celine emailed me and she said, "Oh, congratulations, like you'll be getting your offer letter soon, can't wait." And I was so stoked. And one university I got another admission letter from, which I had to kindly reject. And the third one actually ghosted me and I never heard back from them. And then the following year, I started getting emails from them to like apply to their graduate program. And I was like, wait, I did, but you never, like, you never gave me an answer. And at this point, I've kind of moved on, I never really followed up with them about it, but I thought that was kind of funny.
And you're here at UC Berkeley, so it all worked out.
Yes, it did.
But
It did. It did work
yeah,
out.
I've never heard of a school just not letting their applicants know. That's so interesting.
I know it would have been okay, like, but the emails to like attend the webinars and like apply again next year, I was like, you guys
Yeah,
have a lot of
just
something.
salt in the wound.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my perspective as an undergrad, and I'm sure a lot of other undergrads would wonder this as well. How much do you think grad school applications differ from undergraduate applications, if you can recall what that experience was like?
I remember when I was at UC Davis, I helped a lot with a lab and I went to a conference with one of the PIs there and I had the same questions pretty much that you're asking now about graduate applications because I always knew I wanted to get into a PhD program and like get my doctorate. Um, and I asked her about the essays, and she told me that a lot of people in their personal essays will talk about some sort of like childhood like trauma or try to like trauma bond in their essays. And she was like, I don't know why people try to do that. It's really confusing. Like that's personal information, that's private information. And I think there is some rhetoric where we're kind of told to stand out and maybe trauma bond a little bit in our essays, but I think it's overall just better to keep it short and sweet and professional.
That's so interesting because for UC Berkeley offers grad school workshops, and even one that was just offered yesterday, they were saying to kind of go into your obstacles and what you've overcome, and they've kind of framed it like in an opposite way of like it might be trauma, but like express it so that like we understand what you've gone through and stuff. So it's just interesting to hear like different perspectives on the same kind of phenomenon.
Yes, that's what I was told as well, actually. And so I have a really big background in like addiction recovery, but I had one sentence about it in my personal statement, and the rest was about how I loved to like immerse myself in research. And even like I thought I would be writing the whole essay about it really, but it just ended up being one sentence and it was short and sweet, not a huge deal. But it's interesting to ask the people who are actually reading the applications and admitting um, the students to see what they are looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, uh, while we're talking about like the essays and stuff, can you give like a little bit of an overview between, I think you said that there were two. There was like the research interest and then the personal statement, right?
Hmm.
Okay, can you go a little bit into like what those would entail?
Yes, yes. My research interest one was what I wanted to come. I'll say for Berkeley specifically, it's what I wanted to study at UC Berkeley. And I specifically highlighted the people I wanted to work with. That would be Celine, probably in SBEM, and also Peter Nico at Lawrence Berkeley Lab. And I made sure to highlight as well a lot of the facilities that I wanted to use at Lawrence Berkeley Lab and on campus. So the X-ray diffraction, A spectrometer on campus was very important for me, as well as the ALS facility at LBL. And I highlighted how these facilities at LBL and on campus could help me achieve what I wanted to in my research in a way that no other university could. And I've heard from quite a few people in my cohort as well that they just kind of made up what they wanted to research and then came in and figured it out as they went along. So I think you can really get as creative as you want in that portion, honestly, like to just dream really big.
Okay, and then how would you like explain what the personal statement is? Is that just like kind of telling like who you are, where you're from? Like, is it kind of just like an overview about like, here I am on the personal side now that you've learned more about like my research, more academic side?
I think that probably gave more insight into my work ethic, my problem solving approaches. Because I didn't talk about my childhood or like where I grew up or like what was hard for me. Um, and it was, oh, I talked a lot about the leadership experiences that I've had. So like taking interns at my old company on like a trip in Washington to go um, get some soil cores and some soil samples and bring them back. My experience collaborating with other companies, with other groups. So I used it more as an opportunity to showcase how I showed up as a professional personality than what like shaped me as a human. Try not to get
Okay.
too psychological about it, honestly.
Yeah. Okay, but thank you so much. So, what advice do you have for students that are going into the application for grad school? You've already given some pieces of advice. Do you have any more that you kind of like want to leave our audience with?
Um, just show up to as many opportunities as you can and get to know people. Like you never know what door will open or what letter of recommendation you might get. It's okay to ask for letters of recommendation from a colleague. I don't think it necessarily has to be your superior. I've had like a colleague who was on like equal footing as me write me letters of recommendation before too that came out really well. And I think people also appreciated being able to kind of get a firsthand reference of how I was as a coworker, not just as like an employee.
That's an interesting perspective, or like um way to go about it, but hey, it worked out. So good advice. Okay, thank you. So that does it for all of our questions, but thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for kind of like explaining the whole process when it comes to like applying to grad schools and stuff. Myself and everyone at the EBI wish you the best of luck in all of your future years in the PhD program, and again, we thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for checking out the EBI seminar series on graduate students and their experiences. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more content on graduate programs. Be sure to follow along for future installments or check out our previous series and explore our social media, which are all linked in the description below. Thank you for watching and see you next time.